So just I will recite the verses. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshantirarjavam acharyoupasana shocham स्थैर्यम् आत्मविनिग्रह इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् आसक्तिरनभिस्वङ्गः पुत्रदाराग्रहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्ठोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् हरतिर्जनसंसदि आध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वं तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानम् इति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यद् यतो अन्यथा or just translation is just simple. There is a list of 20 qualities. 20 things are mentioned, and I will see in great detail in purport. But just to make the translation easy. And after that, it is mentioned that all these I declare to be knowledge. These 20 things. Before also, all of you have studied this in which book? These 20 things. Somebody remember it?
Ishopanishad?
Somebody who told it, correct answer? Yes, Amrita Mataji. Yes, correct. Where in Ishopanishad? Ishopanishad, verse 10. Where Krishna has meant, sorry, in Ishopanishad, Krishna has not mentioned. The verse is there that verse tells that Anyad evahu vidya, Anyad evahu avidya. And one result will be obtained by the process of knowledge, and another result will be obtained by process of ignorance. And so there, these items of knowledge Prabhupada has mentioned in purport, and verse 10 of Ishopanishad. Then again, Krishna has mentioned in the same thing. Krishna also has mentioned here same. These 20 things are there as I will declare it as knowledge, and whatever and there besides these 20 things, whatever is there, it is ignorance, and apart from these 20 things. So Acharya has mentioned the opposite of these 20 things means humility is there. Opposite of humility, there is arrogance. So arrogance is ignorance. So pridelessness. So opposite of pridelessness, being proud. So that is proudness. So that is ignorance. And like this Acharya has mentioned. So this is about translation. Then purport we will see that this I have not done color. No. What is mentioned? Can somebody now, in order to involve all of you in our discussion, so all of you can read one by one. Anybody, just I will mark. I thought, I think first two paragraphs are over, I thought. I have not highlighted. Afterwards, I have highlighted. So just for only these two, just 1 second. Somebody read from this process to control.
This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by there is one this color thickness and opacity thing. Not able to read. Yeah, thank you, bro. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. The embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is casing, which is a casing made of the 24 elements. And the process of knowledge, as described here, is the means to get out of it.
Thank you, bro. So, what Prabhupada mentioned here is sometimes there are unauthoritative commentator, है ना? Means less intelligent people. So they what understood about this is they confuse and these 20 atoms with what 24 elements. And where it is mentioned 24 elements, just now we revised that. 4 elements.
Yes,
They are the constituents of
constituents of
what?
Kshetra, body.
Kshetra, body.
Kshetra.
Right? So some less intelligent people they confuse and these 20 things with 24 elements. And they think that these are the same things like 24 elements. Main point Prabhupada has mentioned. And another here is that, but what exactly is, this is the wrong idea. But what exactly these 20 elements? They are the process of, they are the elements in the process of acquiring knowledge. If we follow these 20 elements, then what we will receive? No, we will receive knowledge. This is the Prabhupada has mentioned here. Then we'll go ahead. Somebody can read Maichan Ananya Yogena from these two. Shastri principle.
I will read through. Mai chananya yogena bhaktir vyabhicharini. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one does not approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18, 20, 20, 20 yes, Yasyati Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarver Gunes Tatra Samasate Sura. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service.
Thank you, bro. So what Prabhupada has mentioned here is that there is 20 list of 20 items is there. So in that, most important item is Mai Chananya Yogenam Bhakti Kurvati Avyavicharini. And so this item is the most important among the 20 elements. And so what is this atom? This atom is the part of process of acquiring knowledge. Right? So the 20 items are part of this process, but among these 20 items, this is the most important item. Then what Prabhupada has concluded is, if one takes to full Krishna consciousness, then other atom and other 19 atom will be automatically will be taken care. And for that, he quotes one verse from Bhagavatam that Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavati Kinchana. So, all good qualities of knowledge and all other things will get developed just by practice of devotional service. So, this is the point Prabhupada has mentioned. And if we read this verse from Bhagavatam, है ना, 5:18-12.
रेंट को लेकर अभी से बोल रहा हूँ, वहाँ का बहुत ज्यादा है, मैं तो वहीं मेरे देश में शिफ्ट हो जाऊंगा, ये करूंगा अभी है.
Please mute yourself. And then if we go to the commentary of this verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5:18-12, then the verse translation, what it says is that these all good qualities like Samasate Sura, these might be well. Who is Sura? Some word verse. What verse says is Samasate Sura. Sura means who?
Good call,
Gods.
godly quality, demigod
Godly
quality.
qualities. If we practice devotional service, then what happens? The qualities of demigods will appear, Sura. But our acharyas, what they tell in purport, in their commentaries, that and they not only the qualities of demigod, but qualities of Krishna will manifest. So this is an important thing which Acharya highlights. Just by practice of devotional service, what happens? In the practitioner and in Bhakta, the all qualities of Krishna will manifest in due course. If he is practicing pure devotional service. Then Prabhupada also mentioned here that among these 20, and Acharyas also have mentioned, the most important is practice of devotional service. If you practice this, then all 19 qualities will automatically will get manifested. Go ahead. Then next is accepting spiritual master. Now, regarding accepting spiritual master, I will summarize this. And Prabhupada tells that accepting spiritual master, as mentioned in the 8th verse, is essential. This is also important. This is only one thing. Even for one who takes to devotional service, it is most important. Transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna clearly states here that this process of knowledge is the actual path. Anything speculated beyond this is nonsense. Okay. Now, here onwards, I have highlighted everything. Now, one more. Just we have to read whatever is there in one color. First, yellow color is there. So, one devotee can read whatever there in yellow color.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Already sections. Yes.
As for the knowledge outlined here, the items may be analyzed as follows. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conceptions of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything honor or dishonor pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently
Sufficient,
sometimes...
Roji, sufficient. Just we have to read whatever there in one color only. You read.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, first quality Prabhupada has mentioned here in purport. Now Prabhupada is giving purport to all 20 atoms. First atom Prabhupada has mentioned. What is that atom? Humility. And what Prabhupada has told regarding humility is not to be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Very precise definition. Not to be anxious. He should not be eager, anxious. To be satisfied in what? Being honored by others. devotee can accept honors from other. And it is not that honor is completely bad to the devotee. Devotee accepts that honor, but what is his reaction? Devotee's reaction. Devotee is not eager for that respect. He is not expecting that respect from others. And he is not feeling some sense of satisfaction and fulfillment through that expectation or through that respect. So, if we see this is the definition, then devotee can accept the respect. That is okay. Still, he can be humble. For that, what is requirement? He should not expect or anxious or eager for that respect, and he should not have the sense of fulfillment, satisfaction. Then he is a humble devotee. Very nice definition. And after that, then what Prabhupada has mentioned, the material conception of life, and this material life makes us very eager to receive honor. The material conception, which we see in our offices, where people are very eager to receive honor. They do many things. They go beyond their boundaries, limitations to receive that honor. And from the point of view of man in perfect knowledge, who is that man? Who knows that his body and soul are different. He is different and his body is different. And that man, that he thinks that whatever he is receiving is meant for body only. So honor or dishonor. And he doesn't accept also. He accepts. He accepts, but he doesn't expect. He accepts, but doesn't expect. He's not anxious, eager. And also, whatever is there pertaining to this body, he thinks it is useless. If he is not able to use in the service of the Lord. So this is humility. This is clear. Then next, green color, somebody can give. Can read, no need to ask.
One should. Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Says we'll save time. So just when I finish my description, somebody can start reading.
One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion, and consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group which is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor.
What Prabhupada has mentioned here is that some not to be anxious to be famous for one's religion. And also Prabhupada has mentioned people are very anxious to be known for their religion, but they don't know anything about the principles of religion, and they want to be famous for that. Means they want to be famous for something which they don't have. And for that thing, they want to be famous. So what is this? Dambha. In Sanskrit, we call dambha. Means they pretend. So they are proud. They are proud or they pretend. Dambhatvam. So quality is adambhatvam. And humility, what it is called in Sanskrit is amanitvam. And what is this? Adambhitvam. Means adambhitvam means what? They don't have something. Here Prabhupada has mentioned, they don't have the knowledge of religion, but they show they have knowledge of religion and they pretend and, that they have a lot of knowledge of religion. That is dambha. And so we have to give up this quality. This is the definition of adambhitvam. And till now what we saw, amanitvam, adambhitvam. Then what is difference between both of these? Can somebody like to say what is difference between amanitvam and adambhitvam? All of you understood what I explained? Amanitvam. Anybody has not understood or anybody has any question? Till now, two qualities are clear. And somebody has understood these two qualities, then what is the difference? Let it be wrong. You can try. What is the difference?
Can I answer, Prabhuji?
Yes, you can try. Yes.
By pretending, one cannot have the humility.
By pretending, yes, somebody is pretending means he is not humble. Yes, we can say that. But what is difference between humility and pretension? Adambhitvam. What is difference between these pretension?
Yeah, the humility comes automatically, but the dambha is by our own efforts.
Okay. Yes, Raj, go.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, we can say that actually humility, because it's come from the heart and from the inner side, so it should be the long lasting and it should be our whole life. But if we are in the damba or if we are pretending something, so it's not permanent, it's just a temporary. So whenever the situation get opposite or when the alternate, so our real nature becomes comes out.
Yes. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, bro. So now what is difference between both of them is that humility, when person is humble, then if he has something, and he has something to be proud, and but still that person doesn't show that, and he has that qualities, or he shows his humility, and instead of that his opulence. But in pretending, what happens? Adambhitvam means what happens? The person doesn't have that opulence and doesn't have that quality, but he shows. And in humility, what happens? The person has that quality or that opulence, but he thinks himself as a low, or a person who doesn't have that opulence or quality. Correct? This is one person have, but he hides consciously. That is humble. And another person doesn't have, but he shows. And that is Adambhitvam. So this is some similarity and differences between the two. Then what is, then one line only is there in yellow, I will read. As for actual advancement in spiritual science, one should have a taste to see how far he is progressing. He can judge by these atoms. So these 20 atoms, so now how much we have developed these quality, and we can introspect in ourselves. And what Prabhupada is telling that we can judge how much we are progressing. And 1 year before, and 2 years before, how much we have this quality, these 20 atoms. And Bhakti Thakur has mentioned that we should do introspection after every 15 days on the day of Ekadashi. So in that we can have parameters of these 20 qualities and how much we have advanced in last 15 days. So this test we can do ourselves and we can find out how much we are advancing in spiritual life. Next, green one, somebody can read. Somebody can read non-violence.
Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body. But actually, non-violence means not to put others into distress. People in general are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life, and they perpetually suffer material pains. So, unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and live this material entanglement. That is non-violence.
So what is mentioned about non-violence is, first thing is not to put others into distress. And do not give troubles to others. Do not give any sorrow to others. Then another thing is mentioned, unless one elevates one to the spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. And means unless people take to spiritual knowledge, they will not be happy. And they will be in distress. So we know that the people are in not practicing Krishna consciousness, or they don't have spiritual knowledge, then they are in distress, and no doubt about that. And then we can try to give whatever is best according to that time, place, and circumstances. That may differ with everything. Then another main important thing is try your best to distribute this knowledge, Prabhupada has mentioned. If we are not doing that, then what we are doing? Then we are practicing non-violence. Sorry, we are practicing violence. And if we are giving, then we are not practicing non-violence. Sorry, if we are giving, then we are practicing non-violence. If we are giving Krishna consciousness, then we are non-violent. And if we are not giving, then we are violent. This is the definition of violence. Then about tolerance, somebody can read.
Tolerance means
Tolerance.
that.
Okay, Prabhu, you can read.
No, Mataji, go ahead. Sorry.
Srikantru, can we have numbers before name of devotee? Or is it good? Spontaneously, it is going nicely.
Yes, Roger, we can go alphabetically, whichever is comfortable.
You can see.
Okay. Amrita Mataji, can.
Can I start too?
Yes, Mataji.
Tolerance means that one should be practiced to bear insult and dishonor from others. If one is engaged in the advancement of the spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and much dishonor from others. This is expected because material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad, who only 5-year-old was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotion. The father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So there may be impediment of making advancement in spiritual knowledge, but we should be tolerant and continue our progress with determination.
What is the definition of tolerance? Prabhupada has mentioned here that one should able to bear insult and dishonor. That we have to tolerate. So whatever is different situations are coming, and some dualities we are facing, some difficulty we are facing, and that we have to tolerate. And whatever is coming as a difficulty in achieving our goal, and in practicing devotional service, like Prahlad was facing difficulty in his practice of devotional service, and he tolerated that. Prabhupada has given example. So whatever difficulty, inconveniences we are facing in achieving our goal, that we have to tolerate. This is also according to time, place, and circumstances, and it is different from different devotees. So, but this is in general definition of tolerance. Then next is simplicity. Only one line. I will read. Simplicity means that without diplomacy, one should be straightforward, that he can disclose the real truth even to an enemy. Simplicity means not hiding anything and straightforward. Disclose whatever is there in our mind to each and everybody, even to our enemies. That is the definition of simplicity Prabhupada has given. And then somebody can read alone.
As
Archana
for
Mataji? I was just going alphabetically. Archana Mataji, if you are able to read.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
As for acceptance of the spiritual master, that is essential because without the intersection of bona fide spiritual master, one cannot progress the spiritual science. In the spiritual science, one should approach the spiritual master with all humility, all service, that he will be pleased blessings upon the disciple. Because a bona fide spiritual master is a representative of Krishna, if he bestows any blessing upon his disciple, that will make him advance without the disciples following the regulative principles. On the regulative principles will be easier for him, for one who has served the spiritual master without reservation.
Mataji. So what Prabhupada has mentioned, that acceptance of spiritual master. Before also this Prabhupada has mentioned that accepting spiritual master is necessary for the path of bhakti. One may think that in bhakti it is not required, accepting spiritual, but Prabhupada has mentioned it is required. And now what Prabhupada here is telling, that approach spiritual master with all humility and offer him service, and this thing, just accepting on paper, and just for not for namesake, but we have to interact with him also. That is also is required. We have to approach him with all humility and offer him some services, and whatever is our capacity according to that. And if he bestows blessing, and we have to do that. Then what spiritual master does? He gives blessing. If we did our duty, then he does his duty of giving blessing. And then what happens by these blessings? These regulative principles becomes easy. And once on another thing which happens is one can advance without following regulative principles, and that krapa siddhi also can be happen. This point Prabhupada has mentioned. And one thing Baldev Vidyabhushan has mentioned, which is little different, but in same line, it tells that service without motivation to the Guru, and it gives knowledge to us. It bestows knowledge. And if we do service to Guru without motivation, and Prabhupada also mentioned the same thing, without reservation, without motivation, without reservation, if we do, then it gives knowledge, he has mentioned. But Prabhupada has mentioned here, one advance in devotional service. This is little different point. Right? Remaining things are easy. So till now, how many qualities we have discussed? This is accepting spiritual master. Before that, simplicity, 2 are there. Then tolerance, 3. And then non-violence, 4. And amanitvan adam becomes 6 we have completed. Now, 7th one. What is 7th one? Cleanliness. Somebody can read cleanliness paragraph.
Sure, Prabha. Cleanliness is essential for making advancement in spiritual life. There are two kinds of cleanliness, external and internal. External cleanliness means taking a bath, but for internal cleanliness, one has to think of Krishna always and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This process cleans the accumulated dust of past karma from the mind.
So now, what is mentioned in definition of cleanliness is that there are 2 kinds of cleanliness. And 2 things, if we follow, then we can follow this cleanliness quality. And what are these 2 things? One is for internal cleanliness and another is for external cleanliness. And bathing is for external cleanliness, and for internal cleanliness, chanting of holy name. And very easy. Then next, steadiness, somebody can read.
हेमवर्णा माताजी.
I'll read steadiness also, then we can go ahead.
Yes, somebody can read.
Yes, Prabhu. Steadiness means that one should be very determined to make progress in spiritual life. Without such determination, one cannot make tangible progress. And self-control means that one should not accept anything which is
Yes,
detrimental to
continue.
spiritual life. Yes.
Now there are 2 qualities. One is steadiness, and steadiness is what Prabhupada has mentioned, determined to make progress in spiritual life. And whatever difficulty comes, one is determined and in making progress in spiritual life. And if somebody is not determined in advancing in spiritual life, then there is not much progress, and somebody will feel boring, or he will be on the same place, and whatever years he has passed in devotional service, he will not advance. A very easy definition. Then self-control quality definition. What is the definition of self-control? Is that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress. That is self-control, and rejecting all unfavorable things in our advancement. That is Atma Vinigraha or self-control in Sanskrit. And this steadiness, and it is called Sthiryam in Sanskrit. And the cleanliness is Shaucham. These are 3 qualities. Now, how many we have done? 9 qualities we have done. Okay. Now, 10th one. Somebody can read green one.
One should become accustomed to his and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress.
Through this.
This is real renunciation. The senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratification. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. The senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty in advancing in spiritual life. The most and uncontrollable sense is the tongue. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnant of foodstuff offered to Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, the ear should be engaged in hearing about Krishna, and the nose is nose and smelling the flower offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service, and it is understood here that Bhagavad Gita is simply expounding the science of devotional service. Devotional service is the main and the sole objective. Unintelligent commentators on the Bhagavad Gita try to divert the mind of the reader to other subject, but there is no other subject in Bhagavad Gita than devotional service.
So what is the name of this quality? Is renunciation of sense objects. And in Sanskrit it is called Indriya Artheshu Vairagya. So what Prabhupada has mentioned, renunciation means not cater to unnecessary demands. And we have to get rid of unnecessary demands and of our body and cater to demands only to keep body fit. And what is the purpose of keeping body fit? Is to practice devotional service. And how to do this control? By engaging our senses in devotional service. And details Prabhupada has given that how to engage our tongue in chanting Hare Krishna and eating prasadam. And then eyes in seeing the form of the Lord's, ears in hearing Krishna Katha, and nose in smelling flowers offered to Krishna. And this is the process of devotional service Prabhupada has mentioned. And the subject of Bhagavad Gita is devotional service. This is the definition Prabhupada has given. Then next, false ego. Yes, bro.
Uh, false ego means accepting this body as oneself. When one understands that he is not his body and is spirit soul, he comes to his real ego. Ego is there, false ego is condemned, but no real ego. In the Vedic literature, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1.4.10, it is said, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, I am spirit. This I am, the sense of self, also exists in liberated stage of self-realization. This sense of I am is ego. But when the sense of I am is applied to this false body, it is false ego. When the sense of self is applied to reality, that is real ego. There are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego, but we cannot give up our ego because ego means identity. We ought, of course, uh, to give up the false identification with the body.
Thank you, bro. So, and here what quality Prabhupada has mentioned, absence of false ego. And Sanskrit it is called an-ahankaraha. An-ahankaraha. Ahankar means ego. Absence of false ego. Prabhupada mentioned is that I am this, I am that is ego. And when it is applied to our body, especially this designation, false body, that is false ego. But when it is applied to that, I am Brahman, I am the spirit, or I am the servant of the Lord. Here Prabhupada has mentioned I am spirit. But in whole our philosophy, if we see, then it is mentioned I am servant of the Lord. Then, and that is true ego. So we cannot give up the identification, but we have to dovetail that identification with eternal. With our identity, we have to identify ourselves with soul. That is the meaning of absence of false ego. Then next is we can read.
I can read, Prabhuji. I read
Yes,
already.
yes.
I can read.
Yes, no problem. Read. Read.
Okay, one should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease There are descriptions in various Vedic literatures of birth. In Srimad Bhagavatam, the world of unborn, the child's stay in the womb of mother, its suffering, etc. are all very graphically described. It should be thoroughly understood that the birth is distressful because we forget how much distress we have suffered within the womb of the mother. We do not make any solution to repetition of birth and death. Similarly, at the time of death, there are all kinds of suffering and they are also mentioned in the authoritative scriptures. These should be discussed, and as far as disease and old age are concerned, everyone gets practical experience. No one wants to be diseased and no one wants to become old, but there is no avoiding these. Unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, considering the distress of birth, death, old age, and disease, there is no impetus for our making advancement in spiritual life.
What Prabhupada has mentioned here is regarding this quality. What is this quality? Is perception of evils of birth, death, disease, and old age. Sanskrit, it is called Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So what Prabhupada mentioned here regarding this is, one should try to understand the distress of accepting birth, death, old age, and disease. So that one should understand, and unless one should understand, and unless we have a pessimistic view of this material life, about these four things, and about birth, death, old age, and disease, I will not have any impetus for making advancement in spiritual life. This thing Prabhupada mentioned. The hearing this will give us impetus, and especially the word Prabhupada used here is pessimistic. We should be pessimistic about this. It is sometimes it is called pessimistic. Prabhupada has also here used the word pessimistic. But actually, are we pessimistic? That is reality. Actually, that is not pessimism, but actually realism. But if we understand, for just sake of understanding, Prabhupada has written that pessimistic, but actually that is realism, and that is reality. That is not pessimism. Somebody may criticize, then we should know, that is not a pessimism, because whatever is existing, whatever is reality, that only we are telling, and we are not. Somebody may think that is pessimism, then something is reality. Some reality is there, some negative thing is there. We are hiding that thing, and that is not pessimism. Reality, birth, old age, disease, death, and these are realities, and everybody has to face. And if we are hiding and not speaking about that, then what is that? This is not a pessimism, but it is we are hiding some reality. And so we should know this. So that's why we should discuss this, so that we will get impetus, Prabhupada, as mentioned by Prabhupada. And some different point from Baldev Vidyabhushan is telling that here word is there, anudarshanam, and dukkha dosha, the word is janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam, and it is mentioned anudarshanam. Anu means he is telling it is pratidin, and every day. So every day or constantly, we should hear about what we should hear about the detrimental effect of this janma mrityu jara vyadhi, birth, death, old age, and disease. like that he has mentioned. We should hear about the detrimental effects of some bad effects and of these four things, and so that we'll get impetus. Reason Prabhupada has mentioned, we will get impetus in advancing spiritual life. So we have completed this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. Then next, detachment. Somebody can volunteer.
As for detachment from children, wife and home, it is not meant that one should have no feelings for these. They are natural objects of affection, but when they are not favorable to spiritual progress, then one should not be attached to them. The best process for making the home pleasant is Krishna consciousness. If one is in full Krishna consciousness, he can make his home very happy because this process of Krishna consciousness is very easy. One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Accept the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. Have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These four things will make one happy. One should train the members of his family in this way. The family members can sit down morning and evening and chant together Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. If one can mold his family life in this way to develop Krishna consciousness, following these four principles, and then there is no need to change from family life to Vinod's life. But if it is not congenial, then favorable for spiritual advancement, then family life should be abandoned. One must sacrifice everything to realize or serve Krishna, just as Arjuna did. Arjuna did not want to kill his family members, but when he understood that these family members were impediments to his Krishna realization, he accepted the instruction of Krishna and fought and killed them. In all cases, one should be detached from the happiness and distress of family life, because in this world, one can never be fully happy or fully miserable.
So what is the name of quality mentioned here is? Qualities are mentioned, the detachment and no entanglement with wife, children, etc. These two qualities Prabhupada has intermingled. And then what is detachment means? Here, anasakti and the detachment. That is quality. And the second quality here mentioned is no entanglement with wife, children, etc. And what is in Sanskrit it is called anabhiswangaha putra dara grahadishu. And anabhiswangaha putra dara grahadishu. So this is the second quality. And Prabhupada has explained this combinedly, both these qualities. First, we will see detachment. So, what is detachment means? Same like which previously we have discussed that as for Styrium. Styrium, what we discuss is determined, not Styrium. What that Atma Vinigraha, self-control. Self-control we saw, reject anything which is unfavorable. So detachment is also the same thing. So whatever is unfavorable, that we have to reject, we have to sacrifice for Krishna. That is detachment. That is clear. And then another quality mentioned is no entanglement with wife, children, etc. And that is anabhiswangaha putra dara grahadishu. In that Prabhupada has mentioned, affection is natural So we have to behave naturally. We have to take care of our family. And in the name of this quality, uh, we cannot avoid our responsibility. So that should not happen. So, but when Prabhupada has given, when it will, this quality will go in a red zone, that Prabhupada has mentioned. When this quality entanglement with wife, children, etc., will be harmful, when it is unfavorable to our Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada also, he did same thing in his own life. That only he has written. Whenever he tolerated and he took care of his family and his wife very responsible, he himself. But when the behavior of his wife and his children, and it is going very unfavorable, or it is very harmful for his own practice of Krishna consciousness in his own service to his guru, and which he has received. It was when it became very harmful, and at that time only he left. And same thing he has written. And at that time we can give up when it is very harmful or it is very unfavorable. Yeah. Otherwise, what is the process Prabhupada has given? We mainly the four uh, principal limbs of devotional service, like reading and chanting and deity worship. There are 5 important limbs out of 64. In that, Prabhupada has mentioned 4. By these practice of these 4 limbs of devotional service, we can make our home only Krishna conscious and no need to renounce in this way. And also we can see some examples like we can see that Bhima, I heard from Chaitanya Charanpur that Bhima also took care of Draupadi and when they were in exile. So Draupadi wanted some lotus flowers and Bhima immediately brought these lotus flowers for Draupadi. One may think that now Bhima is not practicing this quality, he is attached and to the desires of Draupadi. Although these lotus flowers are not required, but when in Draupadi told, immediately Bhima went and he brought the lotus flowers. But there it is mentioned that at that time when Draupadi asked these lotus flowers, 1,000 petal lotus flowers, she asked. At that time, her situation, like she has faced this disrobement from Kauravas, and at that time, she Arjuna was also not there with her. And Arjuna went to heavenly planets. So she requires some emotional support. So Bhima fulfilled her desire and gave her emotional support. So, so that's why there it is mentioned that Bhima is not attached, and he just cared for Draupadi. So similarly, and he cared that caring is not some anti-devotional service or unfavorable to devotional service. So that is allowed. What is not allowed is when it is becoming unfavorable to our practice of devotional service. At that time, it is not allowed and it is different for different people. Next, happiness and distress.
Happiness and distress are concomitant factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate, as advised in Bhagavad Gita. One can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress. One should be detached from the materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, when we get something desirable, we are very happy. And when we get something undesirable, we are distressed. But if we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us.
Thank you. So, what is the name of quality mentioned here? The equipoise in happiness and distress. That is called even-mindedness. Sama chittatvam in Sanskrit. And Prabhupada mentioned in essence here is not elated or distressed at material gain or loss. So this is the meaning of this quality, and possible by performing unbreakable devotional service. So one may think then one has to become stone or what? If we poise, then if just one practice devotional service, and before also Prabhupada has mentioned, right? Maicha ananya yogena. If simply one focused on practice of devotional service, then one can give up. One can easily practice this samachittvam, equipoised in happiness and distress. Next.
To reach that stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of service: chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering respect, etc., as described in the last verse of the 9th chapter. That process should be followed.
Sorry, I explained this before only. Next.
Naturally, when one is adapted to the spiritual way of life, he will. Prabhuji, I can't see that. I can't see that. He will not. I think something. He will not want to mix with materialistic men. That would go against his grain. One may test
So
himself.
now, no, sufficient. So what I mentioned Prabhupada here is that aspiring to live in a solitary place. So naturally, if one practice devotional service, then one doesn't want to mix with materialistic men. So you will learn this in your book Updeshamrat, and which you will study further. That there 2 times Rupa Goswami has mentioned. And so for avoiding the association of worldly minded people or non-devotees is very essential, or it is very helpful in our practice of devotional service. And naturally, if one practice devotional service, then he wants to be aloof from these worldly minded people. And how one can practice this? Prabhupada very much. Somebody is doing. Then, yeah. So this. So one will naturally want to live in a solitary place, Prabhupada has mentioned. And that if one practice devotional service, he will avoid this unwanted association. So next, whatever is there in yellow.
One may test himself by seeing how far he is inclined to live without unwanted association. Naturally, a devotee has no taste for unnecessary sporting or social function because he understands that these are simply a waste of time.
what Prabhupada is telling here, the quality is detachment from general masses, not mixing with materialistic men, same. So it is Sanskrit, it is called Arati Jana Samsarhi. He doesn't have any rati, any taste to mix in socialization. He doesn't have a taste for socialization. And one may ask that devotee, he has to completely avoid socialization or what? One may have doubt. So how we can understand is that we can Krishna is that socialization. And we, whenever we are doing any social activity, social function, and so we um, try to make it very Krishna conscious. As far as we try to increase the Krishna consciousness in that activity and in any social activity. In that way, if we do, then it is very easy. We can socialize. And we need not reject. And as our society is also international society of Krishna consciousness. And devotee definitely socialize, but what he does is he Krishna is his socialization, or he makes that socialization Krishna conscious. What he can volunteer for next reading?
There are many research scholars and philosophers who study sex life or some other subject. But according to Bhagavad Gita, such research work and philosophical speculation have no value. That is more or less nonsensical. According to Bhagavad Gita, one should make research by philosophical discretion into the nature of the soul. One should make research to understand the self that is recommended here. As far as self-realization is concerned, it is clearly stated here that Bhakti Yoga is especially practical. As soon as there is a question of devotion, one must consider the relationship between the super soul and the individual soul. The individual soul and the super soul cannot be one, at least not in the Bhakti conception. The devotional conception of life, this service of the individual soul to the Supreme Soul is eternal, nityam, as it is clearly stated. So bhakti or devotional service is eternal. One should establish in that philosophical conviction.
Thank you, bro. So what is mentioned here, which quality is mentioned is the quality is accepting the importance of self-realization. Adhyatma jnana nityatvam. Right. So Prabhupada has mentioned that self-realization is concerned, and one should take the bhakti yoga and avoid the unnecessary philosophical discretion. So that, and the service of the individual soul to the supreme soul is eternal. So all these things, one should be very eager to accept the jnana about adhyatma, spiritual knowledge, about soul, super soul, and the supreme personality of body. One should be eager in accepting that knowledge. Then next. Srimad Bhagavatam.
In the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.11, this is explained. Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yaja jnanam advayam. Those who are actually knowers of the absolute truth know that the self is realized in three different phases as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the last word in the realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, one should reach up to that platform of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thus engage in the devotional service of the Lord. That is the perfection of knowledge.
On what Prabhupada has mentioned here, the perfection of knowledge, and is accepting Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead and engage in his devotional service, that is perfection of knowledge. Because these are process, है ना, meant for what these 20. Now till here, है ना, Prabhupada has completed the description of 20 atoms, है ना, till this point. Then what one is supposed to achieve by practice of these 20 atoms? One supposed to achieve the devotional service. One supposed to know that Krishna is the supreme personality of God. Because after following the process, what one will achieve? He will achieve the goal of that process. Right? And what is the real goal of the process of knowledge is understanding Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead and engaging ourselves in his service. And that is the perfection of knowledge. Now, this paragraph, and one should be that is one's goal, and by practice of these 20 atoms. That's why Prabhupada has mentioned this thing. Beginning
From practicing humility up to the point of realization of the supreme truth, the absolute personality of Godhead. This process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now, on this staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second floor, or the third floor, etc. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at a lower state of knowledge. Hare Krishna.
continue. Same color, no?
If anyone want to compete with God at the same time, make advancements in the spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. And it is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. To think oneself God is most puffed up, although the living entity is always being kicked by a stringent law of material nature, he still thinks I am God because of ignorance. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitvam, humility. One should be humble and known that he is subordinate of the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth.
So now what Prabhupada has told here is that so when one has decided to practice these 20 atoms in his life, and from where one should start? One should start from the humility. And then automatically one will realize that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Prabhupada, now he is concluding. And this way one can go, Prabhupada is telling. So Prabhupada is telling that somebody may have completed some part, others may have completed some different portion of part, and by giving the analogy of floors. But one of the lowest part is thinking oneself as a God. And if somebody is thinking himself as a God, that I am God, that is because of ignorance. Right? And that person is not humble. He is not practicing humility. He's thinking himself as a God. We saw that if a person has that opulence, then he will not show. So that is humility. He is telling others that I am God. And a humble person will not do such kind of thing. So similarly, Prabhupada is mentioning here that so this is the lowest platform here, that telling I am God. So instead of that, one should be humble and one should be convinced, Prabhupada is telling. of this truth that he is the subordinate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, what we have studied here in these verses 8 to 12, these 20 atoms are what? Somebody can repeat. 20 atoms are. If we practice these 20 atoms, then what we receive? What is the name for these 20 atoms? Process of knowledge. If we practice these 20 atoms, then we will receive knowledge. These 20 atoms are limbs of process of knowledge. Correct? Clear? This much is clear to everybody. Somebody has not understood anything. Somebody has any question till now. So what all things Krishna has told till now? Krishna has told the Kshetra. Then he has told about Kshetrajna. Then he has told about knowledge. And after that he has mentioned the constituents of the body. And then after that constituents of body, Krishna has mentioned the process of knowledge. And now Krishna is telling the object of knowledge. What is the goal? Whom we should have knowledge about, and which things are the object of knowledge that he tells from this verse number 13 to verse number 18. Krishna mentions the object of knowledge. So we'll go ahead. What Krishna is telling, Jneyam yat tat pravakshami yajñātvā mrutamashnute anādi mat paramam brahma na sattan nashat uchyate. Now Krishna is mentioning, I shall now explain knowable, and means object of knowledge, Jneyam, knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Yad Gnatva Amrutam Ashnute, Krishna has mentioned. And Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effects of this material world. Anadi, Mat Paramam Brahma, Na Sattan Nashad Uchyate. And Brahman, spirit soul, and he is beginningless and subordinate to me, and cause and effects of this material world. He is beyond the cause and effects of this material world. So what Krishna has mentioned in this verse is, now he is going to explain the knowable. And if one knows that knowable, then what will happen? One become eternal. Yajñātva amrutam. So one will become eternal. And what is that? Krishna is telling that spirit and a soul is beginningless. He is anadi. He is a shashvat and subordinate to me. Clearly Krishna has mentioned. And a mat paramam means I am greater. He is subordinate to me. Lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. And he is not part of this material world. Please note yourself. He is not part of this material world. This is the translation. Now we'll see the purport. And so now very small topics are there. So I will read. The Lord has explained the field of activities. Prabhupada is now mentioning what all things Krishna has mentioned till now. And he has mentioned the field of activity, we studied Kshetra, the knower of the field, Kshetrajna also he has mentioned. He has also explained the process of knowing the knower of the field of activity, where he has mentioned process of knowing the knower of the field of activities. Which verse he has mentioned?
So last
Whatever
we
is
have
there.
read 2,
Yeah, correct.
8,
Correct.
12,
How many things he has mentioned?
20.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. And then what Prabhupada, now he begins to explain the knowable. Till now what Prabhupada has mentioned? Till now whatever Krishna has mentioned, Prabhupada has mentioned. Now what is Krishna going to explain? The knowable, the object. Now in that, what is knowable? The first the soul and then super soul. Two things are there in knowable. Like there are two things in where? Kshetrajna also. How many Kshetrajna were there? What is Kshetrajna? What is Kshetrajna?
Kshetra is
Kshetra-
body and Kshetrajna is soul.
Kshetrajna is knower of the body, correct. And how many Kshetrajna Krishna has mentioned till now? In verse number 2 or 3?
Two,
Kshetrajna, Prabhu.
super
How
soul,
many?
Prabhuji.
Two. Living
Two.
entity
Two.
and
Soul
Krishna.
and, yeah, soul and super soul. And here also Krishna is mentioning there are two objects of knowledge and two things that are knowable, soul and super soul. And you might be wondering that here also same answer Krishna is giving. And knower also same and knowable is also knowable and knower are matching. Yeah. So how this is happening? Because this is different context. And context is also different. And so in beginning we saw that how Arjuna has asked this question, how this chapter came, how this question came in Arjuna's mind.
Can I say, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, bro.
Krishna asked about the nature, Purusha, and the enjoyer. And then he raised the 6 questions related with Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and knowledge.
Arjuna has asked. Arjuna has asked this, but how that question came in Arjuna's mind, I told you something at that time. How this question came in Arjuna's mind. Basic things. How this question came in Arjuna's mind. Somebody has answered also in the beginning. That Arjuna has heard this in his Vedic culture. He was staying in Vedic culture, and there he heard these things. So, and that's why Arjuna has asked about these 6 things. So now we may have question that knowable means what? The object of knowledge and the Kshetrajna and ahead now in verse number 23, verse number 20 and 20 to 26, the Purusha will come. And there also Krishna will tell there are 2 Purusha. Who are they? Soul and super soul. So answer to Purusha and then Jnaya and Kshetrajna, Krishna has given same. So one may have question that how Krishna is giving same answer. The knower is also same, object of knowledge is also same, but and also the enjoyed Purusha is also same. So, what our senior devotees explained, no Acharya has mentioned anything about this. And senior devotees, they tell that these I see six things which Arjuna heard in his Vedic setting and in his Vedic background. They are not related to each other. They are discrete things. They don't have any connection with each other. That's why what happened, they are just terms. And we need not consider the meaning of these terms. So that's why, and context is also different. Like senior devotees, they tell that Kshetra and Kshetrajna, they are connected. They are connected. But this Kshetrajna and this Jnaya, they are not correct. Jnana and Jnaya, and they are connected to each other. Jnana is knowledge and Jnaya is object of knowledge. They are connected. But Kshetrajna and Kshetra, Kshetrajna and Jnaya, they are not connected. Understood? No? So out of these six things, the Kshetrajna and Kshetra, there are three pairs. These pairs are connected to each other, but interpair is not allowed. And intra-pair is allowed. And there are total six things. And so what are the pairs that I will tell? Pairs are Kshetra and Kshetrajna is one pair. Second is the Jnana and Jnaya is second pair. And third pair is Purusha and Prakriti. Yeah. So intra-pair is, there is a connection, there is a sambandha. There is a relationship between intra-pair. But inter-pair connection, like, that's why these are different things. So Kshetrajna doesn't have any relationship with Jnaya. So this is the reason. They are not the same thing. And although the names are coming, and there we can also, another thing we can consider here is that different roles, the soul and super soul, they are doing. Sometimes they are acting as a Kshetrajna, sometimes they are Jnaya, and sometimes they are Purusha. Means all the times they can have these things, but they are three different roles also we can consider. So that's why these three are different things. They are not one and the same. Otherwise, we may have question that how the answer to three question is exactly the same, soul and super soul. So it is not the same answer, it is different. And context is different and terms are different. That's why it is different answer. Clear? It is little difficult, complicated, and devotees have told this by their analysis and experience. So Acharyas have not mentioned this, or Prabhupada also has not mentioned. So we'll move ahead. So next it is mentioned, by knowledge of the knower, both the soul and super soul, one can relish the nectar of life, which is mentioned here. Amrutatvaya, sorry, Yajnatva Amrutam Ashmute. One will, Amrut means nectar. One can relish the nectar if somebody knows the soul and super soul. Somebody can volunteer. Second chapter.
As explained in the second chapter, the living entity is eternal. This is also confirmed here. There is no specific date at which the Jiva was born, nor can anyone trace out the history of the Jivatma's manifestation from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is beginningless. The Vedic literature confirms this. Na jayate mriyate va vipaschit. Katha Upanishad 1.2.18. The knower of the body is never born and never dies, and he is full of knowledge.
Now, what Prabhupada has mentioned here is that in verse, Krishna has mentioned that he is beginningless. soul is beginningless, anadi. So regarding that anadi, Prabhupada has mentioned this paragraph. In that, Prabhupada has mentioned that in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 also, and it is mentioned that soul is eternal. And all of you have studied. And to many verses, it is mentioned that he is Avya and Avinashi. Another, Natvevaham Jatu Nasham, and he will not be destroyed. And so many verses in a second chapter, it is multiple times it is mentioned that the living entity is eternal. And also, here Prabhupada quotes from Kathopanishad, Na jayate mriyate va vipaschi. So then Prabhupada mentioned that nor of the body has no birth and death, but he is full of knowledge. He is eternal. Soul is eternal. Next, somebody can read green part.
The Supreme Lord as the Super Soul is also stated in the Vedic literature, Shvetara Upanishad 6.16, to be Pradhana Kshetragnya Patir Gunesha, the chief knower of the body and the master of all the three modes of material nature. In the Smriti, it is said, Dasa Bhuto Harer Eva Nanya Shaiva Kadachan. The living entities are eternally in the service of the Supreme Lord. This is also confirmed by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings.
So now what Prabhupada is mentioning that Lord as a super soul. So Prabhupada is giving here the reference, presence of super soul as the supreme knower. And he is different from the individual soul. And he mentioned from Shvetashvatara Upanishad that super soul is the chief knower of the body. And he is the master of the three modes. He mentioned in Sanskrit also here. And Guneshaha. Guneshaha means he is the Gun Eshaha. He is master of gunas and a master of three gunas and three modes of material nature. And he is a Pradhan Kshetragnya Patir. And he is the knower of the Pradhan Kshetragnya Patir. And he is the chief knower. And we studied that. And he knows everything. And all knower or chief knower. And also he mentioned that living entities are eternal servant. Das bhuto harer eva nanya svaiva kadachana. So living entity is a eternal servant of the Lord. And also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has mentioned same thing. What is that? Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ar Sabhutya Yare Aiche Nachay Se Tare Kare Nritya. The same point Prabhupada has mentioned that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that is the verse. That Ekale Ishvara Krishna. And at the end it is mentioned that therefore the description of Brahman mentioned in the verse is in relation to the individual soul, and when the word Brahman is applied to the living entity, it is to be understood that he is Vijnana Brahma as opposed to Ananda Brahma. Ananda Brahma is the supreme Brahman personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada concludes here that the Brahma word used in the verse, and that is for the soul, not for the super soul. And that's why it is Vijnana Brahma, not Ananda Brahma. If Ananda Brahma is there, then that is for Supreme Personality of Godhead or Paramatma. So this verse is one of